Welcome to the Sobriety Diaries, friends. My name is Nate. I am a grateful recovering alcoholic 6 years from my last drink. My sobriety is such a huge part of who I am. I decided that I needed to help others find their voice and share their journey too. The Sobriety Diaries is a video podcast where we share powerful stories of recovery told by those who live them. Head on over to thesobrietydiaries.com where you can join our insiders list for exclusive content, early release episodes, and more. Also, please share this podcast with just one person in your life who may still be struggling. You just never know what they may need to hear today. Recovery is possible. Happy Sober Day, friends. Thank you so much for downloading today's episode and spending part of your day with me here on the Sobriety Diaries. Today is a special episode. We are talking to my friend Kristen. Kristen has been a follower and supporter of our podcast and the Instagram page from the very beginning. And I think that it really just speaks to the connections that we can make and the community that the Sobriety Diaries has created and the larger recovery community online and via social media. I talk a lot about starting my recovery journey in the rooms of a 12-step program, and I still practice those principles and read the literature and interact with most of the people that I have met in the rooms, but I have definitely shifted toward the online recovery community and fellow podcasters and recovery literature and different forums in which I can make connections to like-minded people and fellow alcoholics and addicts who are seeking this connection through social media. And Kristen is one of those individuals that I have just connected with from the beginning. And she is such a sweetheart and supporter of everything that I do. We've been planning to record together for a long time, and we finally made that happen. And it was a great conversation. Kristen opens up about addiction and motherhood and how it has affected her relationships and currently being in a relationship with a partner who still drinks and how they handle that and if it affects her sobriety and craving. So we cover a lot of topics. It was a great chat. So let's open the diary on my friend Kristen. Kristen, thank you so much for joining me today on the Sobriety Diaries. How are you, my friend?
Doing fabulous. I'm so excited to be here with you today. Thanks for having me.
We connected a while ago on Instagram, and I feel have developed this sort of online friendship. So I'm super excited to be chatting today.
Same. I think we have some really good things in common. I know you talk a lot about your camping expeditions. I found you early on, and I think I've kind of been along for the ride for a while here. And finally, I'm glad that you're giving me the opportunity to come on and talk.
When was your last drink or drug, and why was it that day in particular?
So my sobriety anniversary, I guess I'd call it, it's October 27th, 2019. It was the straw that broke the camel's back that night, that Saturday night. I had gone out. I had a girlfriend down from Massachusetts visiting, and we worked together, but she's in another office, and she came down, and, we had like some happy hour stuff going on. This was pre-COVID, right before COVID really hit, actually. We'd gone out, and I was with my boyfriend at the time, who's now my fiance, who probably wouldn't be my fiance had that night not happened.
Right.
So in some ways, you're grateful for that straw that broke the camel's back, right?
Yeah.
And we were out, and we ended up going, happy hour, and then we go to a bar. A friend has a band, and we were listening to the band, and there was a guy there that I saw that I recognized, and I'm the type that I never forget a face. And I'm like, where the heck do I know this guy? And so I just started talking to him. I wasn't attracted to him. I didn't like him ever, nothing like that. I mean, I've been dating my boyfriend for 7, 8, 9 years at this point.
Yeah.
So apparently, long story short, fast forward the next morning, I apparently was hitting on the guy and basically wanted to take the guy home.
Mm.
So my alcohol definitely would make me do things that were
Yeah.
probably not appropriate.
Right.
And of course, in my mind, of course, I'm texting my friend the next day,
Yeah.
if anything bad was happening, like she's going to give me the real truth anyways, right? And I
Yeah.
asked, what happened, and she was like, "No, you weren't doing anything bad. I didn't see anything." But did she see anything? Was my boyfriend maybe exaggerating? Who knows? A little bit of both, probably. I was probably being obnoxious, maybe hanging on the guy a little bit too much because I was just drunk. So he was like at the end, because this has been a long time coming with him, for me, having episodes of going out, getting drunk, getting blackout drunk, doing stupid things, acting inappropriately. And I think in his mind and my mind, I realized, if I'm acting like this in front of my boyfriend when I go out with him, what could
Yes.
I possibly do maybe when I wasn't with him?
Right.
Not even knowing, not even wanting to do something, not even really having any desire for this particular person who just happened to be there at the right place, wrong time, I guess you'd say. There was nothing, no connection, but apparently I was all over this guy and I was doing really inappropriate things, right?
Yeah.
So you got to sit there and say to yourself, how does one reconcile the fact that I could be with my boyfriend sitting in front of me and doing these things? Like,
Yeah.
that's a problem. We were in the hotel room the next morning, and he packed up his stuff super early. My girlfriend had already headed back to Massachusetts. She was like, I throw up when I get home, so she
Yeah.
obviously was kind of a drinker too. And he was like, I'm done. I am done. I'm done with you. I can't do this anymore. And I was like hungover, felt horrible, couldn't remember anything. I mean, I blacked out a lot
Yeah.
in my
Same.
drinking days,
I did too.
a lot. Like, to the point where, I was physically looking like I was awake, but I
Yeah.
was blacked out.
Same.
Like,
It's
no
scary.
recollection,
Yeah.
zero recollection. So, so I sat there in the hotel room by myself, feeling horrible. And I was like, oh my God, like, this is bad. And, I had times where I was like, I got to get my shit together. And he'd say, Chris, you got to, you're getting older, and, you can't keep doing this. Cause it was like
Yeah.
every day, even on a Tuesday or a Wednesday or a Thursday, I was drinking to the point where I'd black out. I'm 51 now, so I'm not a spring chicken, right? And, the more you drink, the harder it takes a toll on your body, right?
Yeah.
And the hangovers, some people can drink for years and get
Mm.
better with the hangovers. Mine never got better. I mean, horrible. I mean,
Yes.
like, thought I had alcohol poisoning probably most of the time, throwing up consistently. It was bad. It was really bad. And here I was, functioning, I guess you'd call it alcoholic. I
Yeah. Right.
worked 3 jobs usually throughout my time since my kids were younger. And I was divorced, and I had to keep a roof over our head and put food on the table. I worked my full-time job. I had a job. I still have a job at a major hotel corporation where I do banquets. And then I do like side jobs. I do cleaning. So I
Nice.
worked a lot.
Yeah.
It didn't ever really, quote unquote, I guess you want to say, get in the way,
Yeah.
per se, or at least I didn't think it did, right?
I usually invite you to sort of start where you want to start and identify things that led to an addiction. Is there a family history? Was there a traumatic event? And sort of maybe start to unravel, I guess, your story a bit and what led up to your addiction.
So, I grew up in a, middle class family. I was the youngest of three. I probably, by the time I was like 12 or 13, back then we were called latchkey kids, you
Yes.
kind of just did your own thing. My dad worked second shift. My mom was a real estate agent, so she was gone a lot. No one, if you wanted to eat, you had to learn how to cook. My grandmother was a great cook. I learned how to cook. I was making chicken marsala at 12. You know what I
Yum.
mean? That's just what I did, right?
Where did you grow up,
Um,
Kristen?
I'm in Connecticut.
Okay.
So, I could tell you the first time I got drunk. I was
Yeah.
probably, I was a sophomore in high school. I was 15, and my best friend at the time, um, we were at her house, and her parents had gone away, and we had a couple friends over, and we got drunk. And, so in high school, drank kind of pretty much average. There was the kids that, were doing drugging and really drinking a lot. And they were kind of like the Hellions, and I kind of was just, average, drank with, had a group of friends, still really keep in contact with those friends. To be honest with you, there's probably a group of 10 of us, going back, I don't know, 35, 40 years.
Nice.
Um, went to college in Florida, big party school. The joke was always, what does every freshman do? Walk home in the morning.
I went to a
you
party
know,
school too here in Ohio, and I think that even factored into my decision a bit because I knew it was a party school.
yeah, I was excited because I was going from Connecticut to Florida, so it was
Yeah,
like
of
fun in the sun.
course.
You know what I
Right.
mean?
Yeah.
You revolved your classes around the beach and the sun, and um, we we partied, like college kids do, and I did well. I had a double major in college. I went backpacking around Europe after I graduated college. I had this boyfriend who I thought I was going to walk away into the sunset with
Yeah.
when I got back from my trip, and he kind of had changed plans a little bit, and I ended up coming back to Connecticut, and everything kind of got askew, I guess you'd call it.
Mm,
And I don't know if that, that may have played into something. I don't want to call it. Everyone's definition of trauma, right, is different, but there's
sure.
little things that can certainly add up. There's different moments. I mean, in my childhood, maybe that thinking back, that may have altered me a little bit, but nothing, I wasn't molested. I wasn't, I wasn't beaten, things like that. I mean, but like I said, everyone kind of has different ways of thinking about things that may or not have affected them.
Sure.
Um,
I heard something
so
that really
yeah,
stuck with me once from Lisa Lampanelli. We had her on the show with her co host, and she said, there are traumas with a capital T and there are traumas with a lowercase t.
yes,
And I relate to what you're saying because I had traumas with the lowercase t from here, here and there, and
right.
little things that stick in my mind. I fortunately never had one of those, like capital T's in my life. So that just reminded me of that when you said that.
Yeah, totally. So, I mean, and just like, um, everybody's sobriety journey is their own sobriety journey,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And everyone's trauma is their own trauma. What I think of as trauma may not be yours, and vice versa. So, that was, I definitely, the course of my professional life maybe got altered a bit from that, because I know a lot of my friends that were in the same kind of major as me, they went out west, they went to Seattle, they went to
Did you stay in Florida after you graduated?
I had to go back to Connecticut because, like, it was weird. Like, I had this boyfriend, and we were gonna go, and oh gosh, we were gonna go to like South America and travel around and do all this other stuff. When I got back from my trip, he was just like, "Oh, well, I have to go make some money, and I'm gonna work on the islands for a bit." And I was like, "Shit, I'm like stuck here. What the hell am I gonna do?" And my parents were kind of like, they were kind of mad at me for kind of having all these grandiose ideas of doing this with this guy. And so I like took a bus back from Florida to Connecticut, and I was like, I gotta work, right? So I just started working in like a restaurant.
Did you seek out with this individual, like someone who was like on the same level as partying with you? Did you try to surround yourself with people who were, that's something that I always did when I looked for a partner, or I looked, for a new group of friends when I moved to Columbus after I graduated, people that were like partying the same way that I was.
So he did, to some degree. He wasn't on campus with us. I had met him at an off-campus party, so he wasn't
Okay.
at our college.
Yeah.
But I think, one of the things was when I got back, and we drank throughout our whole trip in Europe.
Yeah,
We'd
of
go from
course.
one country to the next. I was thinking about it. We'd be, back then there was different currencies for every country, and it was like wine, food, or water when we had like 5 francs left or whatever,
Right. Yeah.
And it was always, we'd buy a bottle of wine and we'd hop on the train and we'd go to the next country. I mean, that's just how you did it then.
Oh, that sounds
Um,
amazing, actually.
oh my God, it was
So fun.
amazing. So amazing. Literally a backpack. That was it,
Yeah. Oh my
and you
God.
went and you took the train. Nowadays kids are flying from country to country, but
Right.
then we took the train, right? And you'd find the sleeper train and go to save money on a hostel or whatever, and you'd sleep on the train. Yeah.
Yeah. That's
It was,
amazing.
yeah. And that was the friend that I got, the friend that I traveled around Europe was
Yeah.
the friend that I got drunk with the first time.
Oh, okay. Well, there's continuity in your story here.
Yeah. Right?
Yeah.
If nothing else, that part is in continuity. She ended up moving from Connecticut to New Jersey. Her father had gotten a job, I remember, and we still maintained our friendship throughout those years, and we visited each other in college, and then we had always had that plan, and we kept it. Um, so I went back to Connecticut, and I got a job, and if you're in the restaurant industry, what do? You drink. You go out after work, you drink. It's
Yes.
very prevalent. I think you
Yes.
had said you
I know it
did some,
well. Yes.
yeah. So I did that. Then I ended up working for the airlines for a while, and that was like another party, right? Like
Yeah.
I worked in reservations, but you could like hop on a flight. I'd go to Puerto Rico for the day
Oh,
and take the first nonstop down in first class, start drinking,
yeah.
champagne, and then take the last nonstop back and be
Uh,
drinking, and then go out into Hartford and drink.
oh my
That was just the
God.
life. But
Wow. That's amazing.
yeah. And then I was approaching 30, and I was like, shit, I want kids, and I got to get going here. So I met my husband at the time, and it was, the first few years were okay. We had our kids. I have two daughters now that are 18 and 20. Grateful for my children and grateful for them. The marriage was not good. I was in it for almost 13 years. It was difficult, and I wouldn't say I drank a ton during that time, but when I drank, I drank.
Mm-hmm.
If I went out on a Friday or Saturday night, I was getting blackout drunk, and then being up in the next morning being hungover with two little kids.
Yeah. Yeah.
I suffered from migraines a lot during that time. It was a difficult time. So then I got divorced, and then it was like, I don't want to say a free for all, but it was kind of like I was able to kind of do what I wanted to do and go out and drink, even though I still had the kids, right? And I was like, I was involved with everything with the kids. I took them to dance. I took them to soccer.
Yeah.
I did everything. I had them pretty much full time, and I was never not there. There probably were situations where I got myself into and, drove the kids.
Yeah. I think those are some of my biggest regrets while I was drinking is putting other people at risk. And I don't have children, so I'm sure that that's sort of next level guilt. But yeah, those are definitely my biggest regrets as well during my addiction.
And then you'd see the mom in town that would get the DUI, and everyone was like, "Oh my God, I can't believe it." And I'm thinking, "Oh my God, that could be any of us on
Right.
any given day."
Sure.
I
Yeah.
never, would never judge, because, the mom wine culture back then, you'd all get together
Right.
and you'd be hanging out drinking, and, we'd have the soccer parties, and all the moms, we were all drinking, you know what I mean? The kids would be there, there'd be a pool party, and everyone would be drinking. It was just what you did, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? And no one second guessed you, but God forbid someone get a DUI. I'm thinking
Right.
that could be any one of us on any given day,
Yeah.
realistically.
Yeah.
I never got a DUI, never really, was never in trouble with the law, anything like that. But, I definitely took some risks that,
Yeah.
definitely, thank God that everyone is okay.
Yeah.
Like I said, that's been almost 8 years. Thankfully, I got sober before the pandemic.
Yeah. Yeah.
I said to myself, had I not been sober before the pandemic, I would probably be in the ground right now.
Yeah.
I mean, let me tell you, it was trying being home 24/7 in the pandemic, not drinking, and having, just family the day to day. We'd be cooking dinner every night, 7 days a week, had kids home from college because they couldn't stay on campus anymore. And
Yeah.
it was just like, you got sick of looking at each other,
Yeah.
and you couldn't go anywhere. And I was taking care of my parents a lot. And I became even more isolated because we were in our own like self quarantine here, because we had to be extra careful of not
Yeah.
getting being exposed, because of my parents. But I didn't tell my parents. So I ended up after that dreaded evening of October 26th into the 27th. I was like, what am I going to do? What does this look like for
Yeah.
me? I gotta figure this out. I had never really tried to get sober before. I think maybe the longest I'd gone was 30 days.
I was curious if you didn't tell your parents because you weren't confident that it would last, or you wanted to kind of just like feel things out first.
You're gonna be surprised when you hear this.
Okay.
People don't believe me still. So I was living in the house.
Yeah.
I lived, they had like a bonus room. So I was up there. My office was up there. My bedroom was up there. My daughter had like one of the guest rooms. And then, we would kind of do dinner together. My dad cooked every night still, even in his, even when he was not well, he still was really cooking. He was always a cook.
Yeah.
And so I said, I got to do something. So I just Googled, where can I go? What can I do? I don't know what the
Yeah.
hell to do here. I got to find somewhere to go. I didn't feel like, I don't want to say I didn't feel like, but I didn't want to go to like necessarily an inpatient treatment center. So I kind of white knuckled it in the beginning, to be honest with you, the first like couple weeks, because I found a place close by. It was called the Rushford Center. And they had intensive outpatient. So I went in and did like an intake with the clinician.
Yeah.
I always laughed with her afterwards because I was like, I did not like you, Allison, at all when I met you.
Yeah.
Did not like you. When she was like, do you want to come 5 days a week or 3 days a week? I was like, 5 days a week? What's wrong with you? I can't come
Yeah.
5 days a week.
I want to come once. Okay.
Yeah. Like, really?
Yeah.
So I was like, I'll take the 3-day plan. It's like 3 hours a night for 3 days a week for 6 weeks.
Yeah.
Right. I was like, okay, I guess I'll do that. But probably it didn't start right away. So I want to say the first couple weeks, I just kind of white knuckled it.
Mm-hmm.
I would work and then go to bed.
Yeah.
Work and then go to bed.
I slept so much my first year of sobriety. So much.
I mean, I was like, if I'm not sleeping, I'm going to want to drink. So I just need to go to sleep.
Same.
At the end of the day. You know what I mean? So, started going to these meetings. I think it was like Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, I think I would go, or Tuesday, Thursday, Friday. It was any combination of it, right? And you have like kind of the same people. And it was kind of like an AA kind of meeting almost, where you'd go and you'd kind of we'd go around, do like a check-in. Sometimes they'd have a little activity. The first probably couple of weeks, all I did was cry. I was miserable, didn't want to be there. I was like, I hate this place. I hate all of you. I don't know what's wrong, and it was all walks, could be alcohol, could be drug addictions, whatever, different things. And I would just say to my parents, I have a meeting, I have a dinner, I'm meeting my girlfriend out. I didn't tell them because primarily I felt like I didn't want to worry them.
Yeah.
They were elderly. Worry in the sense that I didn't want them to feel like my daughter has an addiction and now she needs to go help for it. And now we're going to worry about her. And, either what did we do wrong or what's wrong with her? And I just didn't want them to worry. And I think, society puts such a stigma on, alcoholism or people that need to remove it from their life.
Yeah.
And that it's like, it's a problem. Like, what's wrong with you? It's like, so you take this addictive substance, give it to people and really make people want to have it and like, write a passage at 21 and all this other stuff. And all of a sudden you're supposed to feel like you're weak or lesser because you can't not keep drinking this addictive substance. Like, it's like crazy. An oxymoron, right?
And it's crazy, so crazy that the stigma is on those of us who want to not be consumed by it any longer, not the ones who still consume. It's
like
just
we're the
crazy
superheroes in this. You know what I mean?
Yes.
We're removing it because we're choosing to and because we need to, but also, we have to still feel all the feels.
Yes.
We can't numb them with the alcohol because at the end of the day, the alcohol is there and it may feel good temporarily for, maybe the first drink or the second drink. But at the end of the day, your problems are still there. The issues are still going to be there. And we're there feeling all the feels now. We're left with the feels and we're working through it, the hard way. And, I always say too, my sobriety is not a judgment on your drinking, right? So when I tell somebody I don't drink, I removed alcohol from my life or however I put it, I'm very upfront with people. I can't drink. Oh, just have one. I don't want one. I want a lot more.
Right.
But it's funny. Do you find ever sometimes you say to somebody, I don't drink, and their immediate response is, oh, I only have one on the weekend.
Yes. Oh yeah. All the time.
I'm not judging your drinking. I didn't I didn't ask you. You know what I mean? Like, and not to be rude, but like I literally just didn't ask you how much you drink on the weekend. I just said I don't drink. Like I don't like mayonnaise. I didn't say, do you like mustard? You know what I mean?
Right. What do you put on your burgers then?
It just, but anyway, so I never told my parents. Okay. Went through that whole entire time and have been sober for almost 2.5 years now. I mean, while my father was still living, my fiance is from New Hampshire, and we'd go up to New Hampshire to our camper, and he'd be like, "Hey, can you stop at the liquor store and grab me some gin and blah blah
Yeah.
blah."
Yeah.
Usually probably wouldn't ask somebody, that is removed alcohol from their life to pick up some booze, right?
Right. Yeah.
Just saying, but it's, I
Yeah.
just kind of was like, whatever. And he would go in and get it. My fiance drinks. And he goes into the liquor store to get my non-alcoholic stuff, because
Yeah.
it's like wedged in the way back of the freaking store. And you
Right.
got to fucking go through the rum aisle
You sure
to
do.
get to the ritual zero proof. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? And I'm
Yeah.
just like, I used to have to go like this if I went in, and he'd be
Uh-huh.
like, "Oh my God, Chris, there's so many things here. You should see the selection." He'd be taking a picture and videoing it. And I'm
Oh
like, Jesus Christ, I can't I just go in there,
God.
And
Yeah.
I can. It's not that I can't, but
That's actually interesting because I think there are a lot of couples out there who may be in the same boat. So your fiance drinks, and you don't. How do you guys manage that?
So yeah, it's interesting. People a lot of times will ask or they'll wonder, how we navigate that.
Yeah.
And he dealt with many years of me drinking and being super obnoxious and kind of mean, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
But and he does drink, right? So I kind of have set up some boundaries, around the drinking with him and me. And
It's good.
does he drink a lot? Not really. Does he drink every day? He might have a beer at 5 o'clock.
Yeah.
And when we go camping, yes, he certainly drinks. And the rules, like, I don't want to say rules, but it's kind of rules. It's if we're gonna have an argument, we're not allowed to. I won't speak to him if he's had some drinks, even
That's
one
smart.
beer. I
That is smart.
will not. Like, yes, I used to argue a lot when after I'd been drinking, but
Yeah.
my rule is, because I'm the one that has removed it completely from my life, and I have to deal with things on my own and in my own ways, and not pick up a drink,
Yeah.
right, to numb the feels. So we're not allowed to fight if he's been drinking. I don't kick somebody when they're down. So if
Yeah.
he were to have too many the next day he feels crappy, I go on and do my thing, right? I want to go for a hike, I go for
Good.
a hike. I want to go for a walk, I go for a walk.
Yeah.
I don't let it hold me back, but I'm certainly not going to make him feel like shit about it either,
Right. Right.
if he wants to drink and have a hangover, go for it. I had many of those too, right? I
Right.
know what
Right.
he's
Right.
feeling like, and it feels like shit. So I don't need to make him feel more like shit. And then, I'm queen of like some phrases. Just because I have to abstain, I don't ask him to abstain because I can't moderate.
Yeah. That's
That's it.
smart. Yeah. That's smart. I love that.
And it's not fair to us, to have
Yeah.
to, because it can be triggering, right? It's
Right.
someone arguing with you and you're completely stone cold sober and they're not, or even if they've had one or two and they're somewhat altered,
Right.
it's not fair to us, as being the sober ones. And
Right.
it's better for them too, because you're just going to go down a slippery slope of something, and things are going to be said that someone might regret. And I just find
Exactly.
it to be, so it has worked fine, for us, I would say. There's been a few incidents and I just shut them down. I
Yeah.
was like, no, we're not going to have this conversation. When you're tomorrow morning, we can, after you've not had any booze in your system, and
Right.
all should be good. But other than that, like I said, I don't expect him not to have any drinks because I'm not able to. My father has since passed.
Mm-hmm.
He passed December 26th, and I didn't ever tell him. And my mother has dementia. She ended up going into a nursing home about 5 months ago, and she just kind of went downhill, in the dementia area. She was kind of okay before she went in. I mean, she had signs of, forgetfulness and things of that sort. But when you go into like a nursing home, you have like this transferred trauma,
Yeah.
we call it. And
You can take a minute, Kristen, if you need to.
sorry.
You're okay.
So she's out actually now, and she's doing a lot better. But truth be told, so I never told my parents,
Yeah.
and I don't regret it. I really don't. I don't think it would change anything, right? Like, it's not like they were like, um, I just don't think it doesn't bother me, and I don't regret it per
Yeah.
se, right? Could I
Yeah.
have told them? Yes. Should I have? Maybe, maybe not.
Yeah.
My mother is at a point now where it with her
It's
mental
past
state and her,
that. Yeah.
it's past that, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I'm fine with that. My sisters know. I don't have a really close relationship with either one of my sisters. They're supportive of it, and they know it, and they've seen changes in me, obviously. But my friends, and my fiance and my kids are what's most important.
Yeah. What can you share with those who are listening who maybe are experiencing some tough life, and what sort of coping skills or what kind of advice could you give to them?
Yeah, so I can remember even 2.5 years ago sitting in those rooms for intensive outpatient therapy and saying to myself, I'm never going to be able to make it when my dad dies, because I knew back then that he was not well, and I said, how am I ever going to get through? That and camping.
Yeah.
How am I
Yeah.
going to camp and not drink? Like, you just can't,
Same. Oh my God.
right?
It was one of the priority thoughts that I had as I
Literally, you
was
had to
getting
write on a
sober.
piece of paper something that you're worried about.
How do you sit
Put
by
that
a
in the bucket.
campfire and without booze? So I was right there with you on that one.
I look at it now as I gave up one thing to gain so much. Literally, like
Yes.
life changing, 360, drop the mic, everything, a whole 9 yards. How did I get through a lot of stuff? I am grateful and thankful that I had my sobriety when my father passed, because I would have been arguing even more than probably
Yeah.
I already was with my sisters about this or that. I was able to I got trained to do peritoneal dialysis for my father, and I did that for him for like 2 years almost while he
Wow.
was home.
Yeah.
I would never have been able to do any of that, right? So I think of it as it's grounded me, it's made me present, it's helped me to get through these things that have been so difficult, and I thought were going to be even more difficult without the alcohol. It's just been a blessing to be able to have my sobriety during these times. Yes, it's not easy, right? If it was easy, everyone would be doing it,
Right.
and um, we're doing it, and we're getting through it. And a lot of times, I have to sit and play the tape forward, right?
Yep.
If
Yep.
I have a trigger, if I have a moment, I first say to myself, I'm certainly not going to let this person ruin my sobriety. If it's somebody that's, creeping into my mind thought.
Yeah.
And I say to myself, what's it going to look like? And I kind of will allow myself, to sit with the feeling for a moment,
Sure.
feel it. As they say, those thoughts come and go. 20 minutes, maybe, they say, I think is like the rule.
Yes.
Thoughts come and go, actions are forever,
Yes.
so the thoughts can be changed, the thoughts can be, worked through, the action cannot be. So I allow myself to sit with it, think about what it's going to look like. Okay, if I had that one drink, what's that going to look like? I'm probably not going to be very happy with myself to begin with. And guess what? The one drink's not going to be one drink. It's going to
Right.
be 2, 3, 4, 5, right?
Yes.
And then I'm going to be miserable. And so, that saying, the play the tape, literally, I do
It's
that
so true.
many,
Yeah.
many times,
Yeah.
with the triggers that we encounter on a day-to-day basis. And, like I said, I am super grateful to have my sobriety.
Well, keeping in the sobriety diaries, this is sort of a new question I've been asking people, but if you had to make a diary entry today, what would that look like?
I would probably say, today I got to share my story. I've been wanting to do this for a long time. I kind of feel like I have a lot to give. I have a lot of, I want to say, wisdom. I've been doing this for a little while. I've definitely had my share of trials and tribulations through it. And I definitely want to be able to help more people and be more vocal about it.
Everyone has their own story to tell, and I think that, there are people that needed to hear your story specifically. So I am grateful to you that you were willing to share it, and I think that your goal of wanting to help people will happen today, and we can share your story and we will help people for sure. Thanks so much for listening today, friends. Hopefully you heard something that resonates with you, and if we help just one person, our job is done. Make sure you check out today's show notes for all of the information on today's episode and how to connect with our guest. You can find all things podcast related and subscribe to our show at thesobrietydiaries.com, youtube.com/Nate Kelly, where we upload today's video podcast, and on Instagram at the Sobriety Diaries Pod. Check back every Wednesday for new episodes with new stories to tell. But until then, try your best not to drink and be good to yourself. Bye, friends.